Alright, Daf Pei Aleph. We started Hilchas Yichud yesterday, and now we're picking it up at the two dots on Pei Amud Beis. The Mishnah said that an Isha Achas can be misyached with two men. So Amar Yehuda Marav, Leishanu El B'Ksherim. That's Dafka if those men are Ksherim, Al B'Prutzim. If the guys themselves can't be trusted because they're Prutzim, then Afilu Be'asar and Nami Loi. And Have Maisa, there was even once a story, V'Otziu Asar B'Mita, and they actually carried an Isha out, pretending that she was dead, so this way they could go be Mazana with her. Rashi interestingly points out that this woman was an Eishes Ish, and the Rishash wants to know what's the significance of being an Eishes Ish. There would be an Isra Yichud even if it wasn't that case. Omer of Yosef, as a follow-up to that, Teda, it's Shayach, the people, if they are Prutzim, would actually be over the Avera even though there's a group of them. 10 people can get together and steal a beam that requires 10 people to carry it. They're not even embarrassed to be doing this together. So it is Shayach for people to get together in groups to do Averas together. Name him Messiah, let's bring a Raya from the Mishnah in Saita to support this, because Maisrin Leishnei Talmidei Chachamim, when the Ish and the Ish are going on their way up to Yerushalayim to let her drink the Meimarim, so the halacha is where we send two Talmidei Chachamim along with them. Shema Yavai Aleha B'derech. We don't want him to make up with her along the way, because as Rashi points out, they're going to erase the Shem Hashem, and we don't want that to be for no reason. So he's a surah to her until she drinks the Meimarim and proves that she's actually innocent. Anyway, we're Medayik in the Mishnah, Talmidei Chachamim in Shiachrin Alei. It's Dafka if they're Talmidei Chachamim. It sounds like Talmidei Chachamim as opposed to Prutzim, because if it was Prutzim, even more than two would not be okay. Which the Gemara says, no, that's not the diak to make, because Shani Talmidei Chachamim, Diyodei, moving over to Amud Aleph, La Asru Yebe. The reason why we need Talmidei Chachamim is because they understand the halachas of Hasra, and in case he is boil her, we need to have a proper Hasra to punish him, and therefore that's why you need Talmidei Chachamim. But it doesn't bring a raya that more Prutzim would actually still be a problem of Yichud. Amar of Yehuda Amar Rav, Loishanu Ela Be'ir. This idea that one woman can be misyached alone with two men, that's only if it's in the city. Alva B'derech, where there's more of a seclusion, and therefore you need more protection. Ad Shiyu Shleisha, you need to have three men. Shemit Tzarech Echad Mehen Lahashtin, because maybe one of them will have to go to the bathroom. But by having three people, even if one guy has to go use the bathroom, then you'll always have two men to prevent the yichud. Name him Messiah. We could bring a ride to this because the Mishnah says Meiser Leishnei Talmidei Chachamim. Why? Because Shema Yavai Aleha B'derech Mashma Trei V'ihu HaTilsa. Meaning you have these two Talmidei Chachamim plus the husband who we're assuming is there. There's your three men. So you see, like Rabbi Yehuda said B'Shem Rav, that a woman can't be alone on the derech with fewer than three men. Which the Gemara says also no raya, because Hasam by the suffix Saita, you need to have the two different Talmidei Chachamim Ki Hechitin Havi Alei Sahadi, so they could be Adam in case he is boiler. Rav v'Rav Yehuda haviko azli be'orcha. They were going on the road. Haviko ozla hi itzakamayu, and there was an isha walking in front of them. Omerle Rav Rav Yehuda dal karech mekame gehenim. Let's hurry up and move faster so we can get ahead of Gehenim. In other words, they didn't want to put themselves in the matzav of chashash. Omerle Rav Yehuda said to Rav, v'hamar huda omer b'ksherim shapir dami. If you're ksherim, then you could be alone with the isha, and they're ksherim. Omerle Rav says back to Rav Yehuda, mi yemer de b'ksherim kagoyin anavaat. Who says it's talking about people who are ksherim like me and you? El kagoyin mai, but rather what kind of people was I talking about? That's Kagayin Rav Chanina bar Papi v'Chaverav, which were mamish chashuvim, which is pretty wild if you think about how Rav was saying that he himself wasn't a kosher enough. Amar Rav, Malkin al hayichud. We actually give Malkus, of course not Malkus deiraisa, but Malkus Maridis, for being over the Isser Yichud, ve'ein Isrin al hayichud. But that's not going to be enough if a woman is over Yichud for her now to be usher to her husband. Amar Rav Ashi, lo yomer el b'yichud penuya. This idea that there's Malkus Maridis for Yichud is only by Yichud by a penuya. Al v'yichud de eishes ish loy. Ironically, even though it's a worse aver to be misyached with the Eishes Ish, but there you have a counter pressure, because if you give Malchus, people are going to say, oh man, they must have been Baal, and now it's going to be a Moitzi Laz on the children of this Eishes Ish. Marzutra Malki Umachers. Marzutra would give Malchus if someone was misyached with an Eishes Ish, but he would also announce that it was just Yichud and there was no Bia. Amalei Rav Nachman mipar hatya Rav Ashi mar nami lilki v'lachris. Why don't you, Rav Ashi, also give the Malchus and then make the announcement? Amalei, because ikad shama b'ha v'loy shama b'ha. Not everybody is hearing the hak about why the Malchus was given, so there's still a potential danger to the being mighty laws for these kids. Amar Rav Malkin loyal ateva hashmua. We're going to give a guy Malchus if he is the subject of a rumor. So we don't really know, but if people are tumbling about this guy and they're just talking badly about him, that's an issue. So that's enough of a reason to actually punish the person who they're talking about. Shenamar, Albonai ki loy teiva hashemua. Marzutra moisevla afsera al kasfe. Marzutra would actually give Malchus on the shoulders, umakrile albonai. But the idea is that even though there was no real evidence, but just from the fact that people were speaking ill about this person consistently, it must be he deserves it. Amar Rabba, major important line, Baila be'ir ein chayshishim mishum yichud. There is no problem of yichud if the husband is in the city. And as Rashi speaks out, we therefore don't give Malchus because she's afraid to mistafimi bal hashta asi, because she thinks that the husband's going to come right in at any point. So a couple points to make. First of all, the definition of ear, how literal is that? If it's on the other end of the city, let's say it's New York City, Rav Moshe Feinstein actually has a tshuva speaking about it specifically. I mean, just because you're in the same city, but there's no way he's coming home. Also, how literal is the demystifimi bal hashtasi? Does it have to be practical and realistic that he can walk in the house right now? Or is it just because there is this ema on her? But Rashi seems to be mashma that it's only about the Malchus. The Baila Me'ir does not say it's mutter if there's Baila Me'ir, but just that there's no Malchus. But Tosfos, we're going to see, we'll come back to it, is going to argue, based on a Gemara that we're about to learn, that if it's Baila Me'ir, it's mutter in Gansen and there is no Isser Yichud. Amar of Yosef, Pesach Pasuach l'Rosh Hashanah. If it's open to the Rosh Hashanah, Ein Chayshishim Mishum Yichud. Again, there's a big shaila in the Paiskim. How literal is that? Does the door physically have to be open? Or is it not an open door, but it's an unlocked door? And if the idea is that people can just come in, then we don't have to be chayshish. Rabbi Ikla l'Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi one time went to Rabbi Yosef's house. Basar de Karach Rifta, after they ate together, Amr Luhu, Rabbi Yosef said to his servants, Shkayle darga mitusi bibi, remove the ladder from under of bibi. Without really understanding the mitzias of their house, but somehow there was a ladder that would connect the floors. And once the meal was over, Rabbi Bibi wanted to make sure that he wouldn't be able to have access to Rabbi Yosef's wife. So this way, there would be no chashash of yichud. So frek the Gemara, Omer Rabba Baila Be'ir and Chayshim Mishum Yichud. Baila is certainly Be'ir, he's there. To which the Gemara answers an important line, Shani Rav Bibi, Deshush Binte Havai, the Gaisi Bey. Since Rav Bibi was a close friend of Rabbi Yosef, therefore that closeness would create more of a chashash, and therefore he needed more protections, and that's why he told him to remove the darga, remove the staircase, remove the ladder. So this way he wouldn't have access to be in the same area with his wife. It's interesting, Rabbi Yosef was blind. It doesn't seem to play any kind of factor in the story, but he was blind. Anyway, over here, this is where the Tosfos that we just mentioned beforehand talks about Baila Be'ir, and he says, if Rashi would be right that there's an Isser Baila Be'ir, and that even though you're not going to get Malchus, there's still going to be an Isser, then what was the Gemara's kasha that Baila Be'ir? Well, it would still explain why he wanted to take the darga away to create no Isser Yichud. There's still an Aveira. He doesn't want to tell him concerned about the Malchus. So based on this story, Tosfos brings a raya that there is no Isser at all of Yichud if it's Baila Be'ir. There is a very nice shtickle from the Avi Ezri, where Rav Shach says there's really two dinim in Isser Yichud. This is like the major Yichud question. We touched on this yesterday. Is Yichud an Isser Deiraisa because it's a pasuk, and therefore it's like an Isser Atzmi? Or is it only a Gzeira? And really it's only an Asmachtan, it's a Din Derabanan, and we're Atu Chash of Bia, so therefore we make sure to create this Isser Derabanan. So Rav Shach says really there's two dinim in this. There really is an Isser Atzmi that potentially is Deiraisa, and there also is an Isser Derabanan of a Gzeira. So mitzad the Gzeira, Baila Be'ir you can understand helping, because if the Baila is there, it takes away the Deiraisa kite to the point where you can't get the Malchus, but it doesn't make it mutter. That would be the explanation of Rashi. But in a Chanami, there's always going to be this chashash midirabanan. Now, in the story by Rabbi Bibi and Rav Yosef, by taking the darga away, by taking the stairs away and removing access, you have now removed the chashash derabanan. So in that case, it would really help, and that's why he told him to take it away. It's a nice little shtickle to explain how both things can still be true. I would point out, though, and I heard this from Rabbi Rosner, that Rabbi Yosef Engel, in the Lekach Tov, in Siman Ches, Siman Yud Gimel, he has his shtickle over there where he lists all the siyagim da'iraisa. There are a whole bunch of averas that the tsura of the avera is really a gzeira. It's not a din d'rabbanan like we usually think about siyagim, but the Torah wants you to create this siyag. And this is number 7 in the list. So Rav Shach's whole hanacha that the siyag is going to be the d'rabbanan, whereas the isser atzmi can be da'iraisa, it's not so pashut. And in fact, when Rav Pinchas Gross actually said over this Avi Ezra, he pointed out that the Rambam really speaks out beferish that it is a siyag atubiyah, but the Rambam doesn't make it clear that it's derabanan. So maybe it could be deiraisa, just like the Lekach Tov is speaking out that this is a siyag deiraisa. Amar of Kahana, anoshim mibachutz v'noshim mibifnim ein chayshishim mishum yichud. So if the men are on the outer room, the women are on the inner room, there's no yichud problem. Anoshim mibifnim v'noshim mibachutz chayshishim mishum yichud. But if it's the other way around, where the men are in the inner room and the women are in the outer room, we are concerned. We are chayshish. As we spoke out yesterday, where chayshish, the men are going to work harder to be over the Aveira. So this is also going to be a problem of yichud. B'masnisa tana ibcha, but though in a brisa we learn the other way around. Amar Abaye hashta de Amar of kahana hachi tana masnisa ibcha anon navid l'chumra. We're going to go l'chumra and say both things are going to be aser. Abaye dayer gulfi. Whenever there was a group where men and women would both be there, so Abaye would make some kind of a mechitza, a partition between them, in order to separate the men and the women. Rava dayer kana, and Rava would arrange kana reeds in order to be able to make such a mechitza. Amar Ravin sakva deshata rigla. The most challenging time of the year is Yom Tov. This, of course, is where Taisus over here says at the bottom of the Taisus, v'yesh ayrim l'kach nohagu l'sanas lachar pesach lachar sukkos. This, my friends, is the makar for Bahab, because even though everyone was going up for a mitzvah of Shalosh Regalim, but the men and the women were all there, and after the Yom Tov we all need to do tshiva for the Taruvas. Alright, another story. Hanach shvuyasa da'asoy l'nardoi. There were these women who were shvuyas, they were captured, so after they were freed, they were brought to Nardoi. Askinu lever of Amram Chasida. They were taken to the upstairs of Rav Amram Chasida. Ishkulu darga mikamayo, and he took the ladder away from in front of them. So this way, to avoid any yichud problem. When one of these shvuyas who were redeemed passed by, nafal nahira me'upuma, the light shone through the house, Shakler of Amram Ladarga, and however we're supposed to understand this, Rav Amram chapta taivafer when he saw her in the light, and he took the ladder. The 10 people couldn't lift, but Dalia Luchude, but he was able to lift it at that moment all by himself. Solik v'azul, and he went to go climb the ladder to go to that Isha. Kimota lapalga darga ifshach. When he got to the middle of the ladder, he did something with his feet to allow them to not move anymore. In other words, he locked his legs over there on the ladder. Ramakola, then Rav Amram yelled, Nura Be Amram, there's a fire in the house. Also, the Rabbanan came running and said, hey, there ain't no fire here. Amruleh kesiftinan. They said to Rav Amram, you embarrassed us. Amruleh, he said, Mutav tichsefu be Amram ba'alma hadain. Better that you should be embarrassed in the house of Amram in this world. Tichsefu minei la'alma da'asi. So he was basically saying that this was kedai. Ishpik diyanpik minei. Rav Amram then got the Yitzhar Hara to leave him. Nafik minei ki amuda denuhura. And it came out of him like a fiery amud. Now, I mean, you already can see here, this is not like a typical person who had a typical Yitzhar Hara for an Isha. So we see we're talking on a whole different level here. Amar Lei, Rav Amram said to the Yetzer Hara, Chazi da'at nurav at bisrei. You could see that you're fire and I'm only basar. Still, va'ana adifna minach, but I am still stronger than you. All right, now the story with Rav Meir and the Satan. Rav Meir hayab mitzleites ba'avrei avera. Rav Meir used to be very negative and critical of the avrei avera, as Rashi explains, because he thought that they really could be gaiver on their Yetzer if they wanted to be. Yom echad, one day, id meilei Satan ki'itza. The Satan came to Rav Meir looking like a woman. Bahach gisa denahara, on the far side of the river. So Rav Meir, whatever this means, chapta taifa, when he saw what this tzura of the Isha, lo have mavra, but there was no boat that could get Rav Meir across the river. So nokat mitzra, he took a rope that went from one side of the river to the other, and he went across. I don't know if he was walking on the tightrope or he used it to pull himself across. Kimota palga mitzra, when he got to the middle of the rope, meaning he was halfway across the river, Shavke, the Satan, left him alone. And at that point, I guess Rav Meir was able to see what was really going on. So Amr, the Satan, said to Rav Meir, Ilavdika machraze berakia, if it wasn't for the fact that in Shamayim they said, his haro be Rav Meir v'sayrasa, be careful with Rav Meir and his Torah, shivise ledamach tarti moi, I would have made your life so worthless it was like two ma. Different story. Rabbi Kiva hayam esleites ba'avrei avera. Also Rabbi Kiva used to knock the avrei avera yumachad id milei satan ki'itza bereish dikla, on top of a tree. The Yetzer Hara made himself look like a woman. Nakte la dikla. So he held on to the tree because solik va'azol, and this is Rabbi Akiva, was going up the tree. Kimata la palge de dikla, when he reached halfway through the tree, Shavke, the Satan, left him alone. Omer, the Satan, said to Rabbi Kiva, ilav the machraze barakia, that his Rabbi Kiva v'seirasai, shavise ledmach tarte moi. Same idea. Plimai, have a ruggle member kol yuma. Plimai used to say the same thing every day. Gira be'ene de Satan. Should be an arrow in the eye of the Satan. Starting up with the Satan. Yumachad. One day, Mali Yuma de Kippur Have, it was Erev Yom Kippur. Idmile Ka'anya, the Satan came to Plimai pretending to be a poor person. Also Kra Abava, and he called out from the door of Plimai to give him money. Afikule Rifta, so they brought bread out for him. Amar Le, he said to Plimai, the Satan said, Yuma Ki Ha'idna, on a day like today, meaning the day before Yom Kippur, Kuli Alma Gavoy, everybody's inside eating comfortably. Va'ana Avroy, and I should be outside. In other words, you're not going to let me in and eat with you? I lay, so they brought him in, Ukrivule Rifta, and they gave him bread. But he still wasn't okay with that. Amar Le, the Satan said to Plimai, Yuma Ki Ha'idna, a day like today, Kuli Alma Ataka. Everyone's sitting at the table, Va'ana Luchudoy, and I should eat by myself? Okay, so Osyu Ataka. So they sat him down by the table with everybody else. Haviyosef Moli Nafshe Shichna V'Kivi Ale. So when he sat down, his body showed a whole bunch of boils and sores, and it was gross. He was like really disgusting looking. Have Ka'avid Be Mili de Mois. and he was doing things that were disgusting. Omar Le, Plima said to him, turning over to Amud Beis, Tiv Shapir, sit properly and stop grossing us out. Omar Le, Havule Kasa. So the Ani said to Plima, give me a cup of wine. So Yavule Kasa, they gave him a cup. Ichmar Shadabe Kiche. He spit up and coughed phlegm into the cup. He continued to be gross. Nocharu Bey, so they gave him Musar. Shaka Umis. So then the Ani pretended that he died. Shamu Dehave Ko Amri. So when the people in the household of Plima heard that in the street people were saying, Plima Kotel Gavra, basically the Sultan was framing Plima for murder here. So Arak V'Tosha Nafshi made Beis HaKisei. So Plima was afraid that he was going to get arrested. He ran and hid in the Beis HaKisei outside the city. Ozil Basrei, the Sultan followed him out to the Beis HaKisei, Nafal Kamei, and he fell down in front of him. When the Sultan saw that Plima was mamish going a race from Kalim from this whole treatment over here, so Galilei and Nafshe. So the Sultan said, surprise, guess what, it's me. Amarle, the Sultan said to Plima, my time Amratachi, why did you do this and say that I should, the arrows in the eye of the Sultan? Why were you starting up with me? The Elahechi Ema. So Plima said, well, what should I have said to make you stop making me do Averis? Amarle, the Sultan said, Lema Mar Rachmana Nigar by Besotan. Davin that I shouldn't make you do Averis. So the right Mahalach is not to curse the Sultan, but to ask Hashem to help fight off and protect from the Sultan. Rabbi Chia bar Ashi have a ragil called Idun de have a nafel la'ape. Every time that he would put his face down to say Tachanan, have a Omer harachaman yatzilenu mi'etzer hara, Yumachad shmatinu devisu. One time his wife overheard him saying this tefillah, Omer, and she said, Michti hakamishne de parish le'minoi. How many years has it been that he has not had any tashmish? So my time hakamarachi. So what does he have to worry about saying that protect me from Yetzer Hara? In other words, she assumed that because since he was an old man, so he wasn't holding by having that kind of Yetzer anymore. So now she decided, if he's actually davening for this, I'm going to test him out. So Yumachad Havika Garis Beginose. One day he was learning in the guard. Kishta Nafshe, she went ahead and made herself look all pretty. Cholfa Visanya Kame, and she passed back and forth in front of him. Omar La Manat. He said, who are you? Omar Ana Charusa Dehadri Miyuma. I am Charusa, who is known to be a famous Zaina, and I've come back from my travels. So Tava. So he was Teveher for Tashmish, for Znus. Omar Le, Aisi Niale Lahach Rumana Deresh Tzutzisa. Bring me the pomegranate on that highest branch of the tree, she said. Shavar Ozul Aise Niale. He jumped up, went and brought it to her, and he was boil her. The Ian Yaakov says it could be he actually wasn't boil her, but Pashas from the story, it seems like he actually did something that he had terrible charata for. Kiyasel Bese, when he came home, Havikoshagra de Bisu Tenura. His wife was heating up the ovens. Solak Vikoyosef Begave. He went and sat in it, meaning that he wanted to kill himself for doing the Avera. Amar Le, my high, what is the meaning of that? Amar La, Hachiv Hachiv Maisa. He told her what happened. Amar Le, Ana Havoid. It was me. I was the one who was pretending to be the Zaina, so you didn't do any Avera. He couldn't be Makabalit. He just couldn't believe what she was saying. The Yosfala Simoni, until she gave him the proofs that it was her, Amar La, he still said to her, Anamia li'isura echavni. I still was trying to do an Avera. And kol yomav shel oisay tzadik hayemesana, he sat in Tanesim for the rest of his life, ad shemes ba'isa misa, until he died because of that misa. Titania, because we know this from a brisa, Isha hafeiram v'Hashem yislach la. At this time, about the husband who takes care of her in a dharm, and Hashem's going to give her forgiveness. So b'mei hakasav medaber, b'isha shenodra ben nazir, v'shoma bailav haferla, v'hilo yodash haferla bailav hayashoyse yain u'metamela mesim. So even though she technically didn't do anything wrong because he took care of it, still considered like she did something wrong because she tried and went through with the action of an Avera. Rabbi Akiva ki havi mati l'hai psuka have bachi. When Rabbi Akiva would reach this pasuk, he would cry. Omar, Uma mishin eskaven lechol basar chazir, v'olo b'yode basar tlet. Omar teir tzricha kaparu slicha, and there he didn't even technically do anything wrong. Mishin eskaven lechol basar chazir, v'olo b'yode basar chazir alachas kama v'kama nebach, someone who actually goes through with the Avera. Ki yetz b'davrata Omer, lo yoda v'osham v'nosa avaynai, kishayir Rabbi Akiva magila pasuk zeh yabaycha, Uma mishin eskaven lechol shuman v'olo b'yode b'chelev, Omar teir lo yoda v'osham v'nosa avaynai, mishin eskaven lechol chelev, v'olo b'yode chelev, alachas kama v'kama. Isi ben Yehuda Omer, on this, all people who have a sensitivity would be doing the tshuva. Then the Mishnah said, Misyachid Odom im imai, or with his daughter. There is no Isser Yichud. Amar Yehuda Amar Ravasi, Misyachid Odom im achaisai. A person could also have Yichud with his sister, V'dar im imai v'im bitai, and he can actually live in the same house with his mother or his daughter. Ki Amar Kamei Deshmul Amar, Asur Lisyachid im kol arayas shebatayra. You can't have Yichud with any of the arayas, v'afilu im behema, because obviously Ravia is going to be that same kind of an Isser. So now we learned in the Mishnah, Misyachid Odom im imai v'im ishtai, v'yashin imehim b'kir of basar. So the Mishnah is even taking it further, that there can actually even be that kind of Nigias basar v'tiyufta de Shmuel. L'chera, this is keneged Shmuel, but Shmuel here is being so machmer that you can't have any yichud with any arayas. Amar lech Shmuel u'tamech hadatanya. How are you going to understand achoyse v'chamoyse v'shar kol arayas shebatayra ein misyachid imoem ela be'edim in shaloi be'edim loy. So l'chera, this Bryce is going keneged the Mishnah. Ela tanayi must be to machlekes tanayim. So did Tanya. Amar Rabbi Meir, his harubi mipnei biti. Be careful with me that I should not be alone with my own daughter. Amar Rabbi Tarfon, also Rav Tarfon said, his harubi mipnei kalasi, that I shouldn't be alone with my daughter-in-law. Of course, the raya is really from Rav Meir, because Rav Meir is the one who was with his own daughter, and he was machmir because of that erva. From Rav Tarfon alone, it wouldn't have been such a chiddush. Ligleg alav oisai Talmud, a certain Talmud was mocking Rav Tarfon for being so verfrumt with a close relative. Amar Rabbi Avo mishum Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, ohoyu yamim muatim, ad shenichshel oisai Talmud b'chamaisai. That same Talmud who was mocking Rav Tarfon, he actually didn't have error with his own mother-in-law. The Gemara says, afilu im behema. According to Shmuel, you can't have yichud even with an animal. Abaya mechlale mikula devra. Whenever Abaya would be learning Torah outside, he first would shoo away all the animals to make sure he wouldn't be alone with them. Rashi also brings that maybe he wouldn't let the shepherd, the raya, be in the same field with the animals alone. Rav Sheshis maverle mitzra. Rav Sheshis would cross the animals to the other side of the bridge. Rav Chanan ben Ardai iklal Rav Kahana lefum nahara. Rav Chanan was visiting Rav Kahana. Chazia diyosef v'kogarsi. He saw Rav Kahana was learning Torah. V'kaima behema kamei, and there was an animal near him. Amalei said to Rav Kahana, leisaverle mara filu im behema. You don't hold of this chumrah that you shouldn't have yichud with an animal? Amalei said back to him, Lavadatoi. I didn't realize the animal was there. I once heard B'Shem Rav Matasyahu Solomon that he said once that if the Anshe Knesset Gedolah would be alive today, there would be an Isser Yichud with a computer. That's what he would think. Okay, Amar Rava. Misyachid adam imshtei yevamos v'imshtei tzares. A guy can have yichud with these two sisters-in-law and co-wives because they are not going to like each other, and therefore they won't protect each other, and therefore there won't be any chashash of yichud. Im isha v'chamaisa, also that same kind of animosity exists. Im isha ubas baila, a woman and her stepdaughter. Im isha v'tinaikes, and with any woman and a girl sheyodas tambia. If the kid is old enough to realize what she's looking at, then she might report what's going on here. The ein meiseres atzma labia, but yet she herself won't give herself over for the bia. In other words, she's young enough that we're not chayshish that she's going to want to have this nus, but she's old enough that she can report what happened. And this is a good place to stop. Pick it up in Mirz Hashem tomorrow with the final daf of Masechtas Kiddushin and Seder Noshim.